Shalom. I'm going to start by giving all the praises, glory, and honor to Yahweh, Ba'ashem, Yahushai, Ba'ashem, Aruchak Double honors to the elder apostles and bishops of the great millstone who rule well. Peace, blessings, and salutations unto the hopeful elect house of David, scattered throughout the four corners of the earth. In the land of our captivity, we shall remember ourselves. And this is in response to this video that you see on the screen. And it's entitled Navajo Grandma, Lost Hebrew Nation, Pre-Colonization Beliefs. It's a pretty solid video. This older elder Gadite woman, she's going into some of the oral traditional stories, that that she held on to, and it made her do her research and come to find out of her Hebraic roots. All right, the so-called Native American Indians of the various different tribes that were all over America. They were known as the tribe of Gad. And you also had the tribe of Reuben as well, which are those the Seminole Indians in uh, Florida. Now, one of the scriptures that came to mind as I was listening to her was in our law, which is a custom in our law, where we actually listen to the oral tradition of our fathers, and where they would actually speak to us and pass down information and history concerning our ancestors and our customs and so on and so forth, our heritage. In which in these days, there's a big disconnect between the older generation and the younger generation. So a lot of information have been missing. But ultimately, we know through the Spirit, the Lord had to bring forth the remembrance, you know when the Lord rose up, Abba Bivens, and he was in that time, where Jake was starting to get you know roused up, but Jake didn't have a foundation. But Abba Bivens, he was the one on the scene, who the Lord, had the Holy Spirit dealing with, and he brought out the truth that the so-called black man in America is a Hebrew, a Israelite, and also he included the so-called uh, northern tribes, the so-called Hispanics and Native Americans, and that was the fulfillment of where it talks about how Elijah in the last days would turn the hearts of the father to the children heart to the fathers. All right. And Jake, once they hear it, they begin to do that search. So real quick, let me get that in Deuteronomy 32 and verse 7. And it says, remember the days of old, consider the years of many generations, ask thy father, and he will shew thee, thy elders, and they will tell thee. All right. And they would be the ones who would, pass down the history, all right, and the information down to the children, the generation after them. And they would learn of, the old mighty works that was done, of their forefathers, their ancestors, all right. Um, the miraculous things that our Heavenly Father did for us, like, for instance, what the Lord did for us in ancient Egypt. That was to be rehearsed and taught, you know, to the children, all right, because our Heavenly Father, He's always been our defender. He always, in a time of trouble, He always delivered us. He always saved us. He always showed His power for His people. All right, but we can also learn of your heritage, through your through your fathers, because they learned it of their fathers. So I'm gonna get into this video, and I'm gonna just let it play so y'all can listen to it. All right, as she pretty much take you into that journey, and it proves, without a shadow of a doubt that we are the Lord's people. The so-called Native Americans are indeed the children of Israel. So let's listen real quick.
And I was a little child, and I hung on to Grandpa. Well, when they were there were stories. I mean, there were oral histories, and they would bring out their, what you would call their seer stones. When they would sit in a circle, they all had a seer stone. Now, this is a big fat one. This is not a seer stone, but it was a rock that sometimes was, but it was round. And they would hold it in their hand, and they would see things in there. And they would share their history of the people there and everyone took turns in the room. And the things that they would speak about, and what I learned from these men, is that they would talk about the crucifixion of Jesus Christ. They would tell the specifics, and then they would say the prayer, and it was so profound. And I would end up crying because it was absolutely beautiful to listen to the crucifixion and the song and the prayer. Then, added to that, they would talk about how our people came here. And some of the things that I wrote down was that my grandfather said we came from the east, and that eventually that Christ, after he was crucified, that he walked among the people. And I did say to you before, when we would be riding on a wagon and going through Chaco Canyon, he would slow down and stop and tell my Biji and me and those in the wagon, and he said that Christ walked here, that he blessed the people, he taught them, he healed them, and he blessed them. And he would tell them when he was ready to leave, and they were so sad. And he taught them the herbs, how to heal and heal themselves, and to bless one another. And he left with them all of the things that he did for them so that they could do for themselves. And anyways, and then you would carry on, and he would just continue to expound upon that. And I didn't really understand, but I came to know how true that was. When Christ would leave, and he appeared to other tribes, and then he would come again, and he would bless them again.
Now that's heavy, because basically what she's saying is, according to the history being passed down, the oral traditional history being passed down from her fathers, that Yahweh Shai came to this side of the world. All right, and he dealt with the other tribes that were over here. Now let's get scriptures, because when the Lord came on the scene, he came to his people, all right, over in the Holy Land. He was actually born in the Holy Land, and he went to his people, and you had a lot of our people that rejected him, and then you had those that did receive him. Um, this is what he said, and this is in the book of John 10 and 16. It says, let me start up. This is John 10, verse 14. It says, I am the good shepherd and know my sheep and am known of mine. As the Father knoweth me, even so know I the Father, and I lay down my life for the sheep. And other sheep I have which are not of this fold, them also I must bring, and they shall hear my voice, and there shall be one fold and one shepherd. Now we know when the Lord came first, he came to Judah, because that was who was predominantly in the land at the time. It was Judah, Benjamin, and Levi. They made up the Jews at that time. But the northern tribes, they were, long gone by the time the Lord came on the scene. Now you could read the history in Second Kings, the 17th chapter, when the northern tribes were carried out of Samaria during the time of King Shalmaneser the fifth. All right, they was carried over into Syria, and then at a certain point in time, they had a council among themselves to, basically get away, to escape, the rule of the heathen. So they, got into vessels and they migrated. They hopped in vessels, boats, ships, and they navigated from that side of the world over to the Americas. And when you read that the Jewish encyclopedia, it tells you that about Arsarif. That Arsarif was the land that Christopher Columbus identified. All right, and that was where the 10 tribes were. All right, and Arsarif, which is spoken of in Second Ezra, the 13th chapter. The word Arsarif in the Hebrew is Achar Aratazah, which means another land. And this was another land that, mankind did not dwell. Now, was there man that ever, been to the Americas, or been on that landmass of America? I'm pretty sure. When the land was all one landmass, or it was known as Pangea, before it got broken up. But there was never no civilization where you had men who actually made the Americas their home and they actually dwelt there. We know the Americas was known for, its resources, gold and silver and spices are things that are native to the Americas. And you had an account in Kings where you had King Solomon, of course, all right, which, once every 3 years, they would actually come over here and they would get, peacocks, ivory, all right, primates, and bring it back over here. And when you go back to that account in Second Ezra, the 13th chapter in the Apocrypha, it said that when they would make this journey, it would take them a year and a half. All right. So that gives you the clue that they knew about this side of the world, which is why they was able to make that navigation and it was successful. So, they had been here for many years and the Lord knew about the fact that they would be scattered from one end of heaven to the other side of the heavens. As a matter of fact, when you go to Deuteronomy, let's go to Deuteronomy real quick. Go to Deuteronomy 33. Because part of what would happen to us in the latter days was we would be scattered. All right. We would be on both sides of the world. Deuteronomy 33 and verse I'll start at 16. It says, and for the precious things of the earth and fullness thereof, and for the good will of him that dwelt in the bush, let the blessing come upon the head of Joseph, and upon the top of the head of him that was separated from his brethren. His glory is like the firstling of his bullock, and his horns are like the horns of unicorns. With them he shall push the people together to the ends of the earth. And they are the 10,000s of Ephraim, and they are the thousands of Manasseh. All right. So, they got pushed, to the ends of the earth, the uttermost part of the earth, which, we're in the Western hemisphere. Okay. Just go into that account of 2nd Ezra 13, starting at verse, was it 41? 40 or 41. All right. And they came over here, and the Lord brought them into another land where never mankind dwelt. And it's been that way. The northern tribe, they have not really been back, all right, as a collective to the land of Israel since the Assyrian captivity. So it's been a long time since they, been in the land. So they've been away for all this time. So you can understand how over the course of time they was able to, pick up on other customs. They start to fall away and start worshiping idols, adopt, certain ways of living, certain ways of thinking. They felt that they discontinued from the heritage. They were literally cast out of the Lord's sight, because the land of Jerusalem, the land of Israel, the Lord's eye is always upon the land. Let me go to was that Deuteronomy 11? Deuteronomy 11 and yep, Deuteronomy 11 and verse 11, it says, "But the land whither you go to possess it is a land of hills and valleys, and drink of water of the rain of heaven, a land which the Lord thy power careth for. The eyes of the Lord thy power are always upon it, from the beginning of the year even unto the end of the year." So the Lord, his eyes is always upon the land. All right. So let's go to Deuteronomy 29 and 27. And it says, let me start at verse let me start at verse 25. It says, it's 24. It says, "Even all nations shall say, wherefore have the Lord done thus unto this land? What meaneth the heat of his great anger? Then men shall say, because they have forsaken the covenant of the Lord power of their fathers, which he made with them when he brought them forth out of the land of Egypt. For they went and served other gods and worshipped them, gods whom they knew not, and whom he had not given unto them." And the northern tribes, they was heavy into idol worship. All right, under the whole reign of Jeroboam, and then eventually all the other kings, after him, they had Israel completely heathened out, you know, worshiping all type of idols, you know, having their children pass through the fire, all type of stuff. So the Lord got sick of it and gave them a bill of divorce. Put him right out of his inheritance. And then he actually brought in heathens to replace them. That's all in 2 Kings, the 17th chapter. Y'all can go and read it. All right, so that pissed the Heavenly Father off, and they got casted out of the land. But Judah was no better, because Judah was started to do the same thing after. He's looking down upon the northern tribes, because of their idolatry, but Judah was doing the same stuff. And then eventually, the Lord rose up the Babylonians, and Judah got carried away, just like the northern tribes got carried away into the Assyrian captivity. So it says, verse 27, "And the anger of the Lord was kindled against this land, to bring upon it all the curses that are written in this book. And the Lord rooted them out of their land in anger and in wrath," right? "And in great indignation. and cast them into another land as it is this day. All right, and that's Arsarif. Okay, you look it up, it means another land. All right, Achar Arataza. Yep, Achar, another Arataza land. Okay, and that's how they got over here to the Americas, which would happen to be the same land where Judah, you know, centuries later would be brought in captivity, and we would be oppressed together, as it says in Jeremiah 50 and 33. Because we have not been united, both kingdoms, since the time of David and Solomon. After that, the Lord, split the kingdom up. All right, broken that wall of partition. He broke the brotherhood between Judah and Israel. There was wars going on, between both kingdoms. And then that's when the Lord got fed up and, took the northern tribes, scattered them, and most of them, the Lord put the spirit on them to come over here. And then you had Judah, in the Holy Land. They was keeping the commandments, but then they did after the northern tribes and did the same shit. All right, so here we are, fast forward to this day. Now we are both the northern and the southern kingdom. We're yet this day in our captivity. This Jeremiah 50 and 33. Thus saith the Lord hosts, the children of Israel and the children of Judah were oppressed together, and all that took them captives held them fast and refused to let them go. All right, and yeah, man, they just like we in the ghetto, in the slums, they in the res, and it's even more poor in the res than it is in the damn projects. So you gonna tell me that they ain't under the curse? They catch hell too. We already know about the heinous crimes and the slaughtering that this devil did upon these the native tribes. And they did the same thing with Judah. They put them in captivity, put them on ships, sent them to the other side of the world, and they brought us over here on ships to this side of the world. Okay, so you know, them being in another land for so long, of course they were gonna fall away. So the Lord had to, according to the prophecy, He was gonna have compassion, and He was gonna basically assemble us. He was gonna have mercy upon us. Let me get Isaiah 11. Salakia. This is Isaiah 11, Isaiah 11 and 12 and 13. It says, and he shall set up an ensign for the nations and shall assemble the outcast of Israel. All right, that's the lost sheep. And gather together the dispersed of Judah from the four corners of the earth. The envy also of Ephraim shall depart, and the adversaries of Judah shall be cut off. Ephraim shall not envy Judah, and Judah shall not vex Ephraim. And that's through Yahushai, his gospel, the fact that he pretty much put us together. You got the Ezekiel 37 stick, where the Lord will put the stick of Judah and the stick of Ephraim and put them together, while simultaneously the Lord pouring out his spirit, he blowing his breath into the dry bones. And now we're coming together, and now we understand who we are, remembering ourselves in the land of our captivity. And now slowly but surely you got the brotherhood between Judah and Ephraim coming back. When you got the Latin tribe brothers, the so-called Puerto Ricans, the Ephraimite brothers, Issacharites, so-called Mexican brothers, or so on and so forth, coming in and joining the camps, all right, with the so-called Negroes and Haitians and West Indians, all right. That's the Lord is gathering us together, okay. So the Lord had to, reconcile them. He had to go to them too and gather them. All right, let's get John 11 and 50. And it says, let me start at 49. This is Caiaphas speaking. John 11 and 49, it says, and one of them, named Caiaphas, being the high priest that same year, said unto them, you know nothing at all, nor consider that it is expedient for us that one man should die for the people, and that the whole nation perish not. And this spake he not of himself, but being high priest that year, he prophesied that Yahushua should die for that nation, and not for that nation only, but that also he should gather together in one the children of the Most High that were scattered abroad. You see that? So yeah, Judea was being gathered up, and it was just a remnant of them. But then you got the other tribes. The Lord wasn't just dealing with just the southern kingdom. He had to assemble all the tribes. So he definitely had to have came to this side of the world, and they have their different depictions of him. Different titles that they named him. One of the ones that I know for sure is I believe it might have been Issachar that called him Quasiquado. All right, and the elder brother Kazak, he has lessons going into that, breaking it all down. All right, so they have their stories of when the Messiah came over to them. All right, so he said there was another fold that he must bring that was not of that fold. He knew that there would be, other Israelites that would be scattered. So he had to go and assemble them. And how it would be assembled? By way of the word. Let's go to the Apocrypha real quick. So we go to Baruch. This is Baruch 4 and verse 36. And it says, O Jerusalem, look about thee toward the east, and behold the joy that cometh unto thee from the Most High. Lo, thy sons, whom thou sentest away, they come gathered together from the east to the west by the word of the Holy One, rejoicing in the glory of the Most High. All right. And we're being gathered from both sides of the world, okay, by way of this word being preached. Because the scriptures say the gospel shall be preached among all nations, and then shall the end come. All right. And it just so happened right here in Babylon, or like it says in Hosea 1 and 10, in the place where it was said unto you, you are not my people, there shall be said, you are the sons of the living power. All right. And this is that land, right here in America. So you had Judah, wake up decades ago, and then you got the northern tribes. You know, not all of them, but you have a certain number of them, all right, that start to return. Okay, and the Lord just has that spirit out there, man. He said he would cause his doctrine to reign, all right, to do from the heavens on the earth, and that's the doctrine, pouring out. Okay, so it's all coming out, man. All right, you got various history lessons, how you got all type of relics, all type of Artifacts, Hebrew artifacts that was left all throughout the Americas, man. These were Hebrew speaking people. All right, and you read the different accounts of the historians who were among them, who had experiences with them, and noted how their languages and their customs were very identical to the Hebrews. That's because they were Hebrews. Even Glenn Beck can break it down to you. Even though that was, because those damn morons, the Mormons, they even knew the history. They even teach that the natives are Israelites. Okay, so yeah, that's it on that. Now I'll play a little more, and then we'll get a few more precepts.
And so it was an incredible um, experience that as I was at the feet of my grandfather and these 12 men, how they expounded upon the oral histories that they knew, that I knew, that meant everything to them. And it was their foundation, and they wanted to be sure to carry it on. And few Dene people know these things. And
And then we get a couple scriptures. Job 8:8, and it says, "For inquire, I pray thee, of the former age, and prepare thyself to search of their fathers. For we are but of yesterday, and know nothing, because our days upon earth are a shadow. Shall not they teach thee, and tell thee, and utter words out of out of their heart?" Yeah, you know, your fathers, your parents, your grandparents, your great grandparents. They had information that was shared, from their ancestors, their parents, and their parents' parents. Because you only here for a short period of time, so you know you gotta receive that information. You gotta, search, go and ask, so they can teach you and give you a lesson, pass down certain things. And that was heavy amongst, you know, the native tribes. That's what they did. And I got some accounts also where you've had some of the tribes that speak on how their ancestors would give them certain information, and I'm gonna bring them out. I have a book, and this is in the Google books. I'm gonna bring this one out, and then it's another one. It's from the Lost Tribes and Promised Lands by Ronald Sanders. All right, most brothers already know about this book. All right, if you came into the truth, years ago. But this is how they came to know. All right, now let me get another one. Let's get Psalms 44:1, and it says, "We have heard with our ears, O power. Our fathers have told us what work thou didst in their days, in the times of old." All right, so we always had that custom. Our fathers would always teach us. Let's get Psalms 77. Psalm 77 verse 3, it says, "I remembered the Most High power and was troubled. I complained, and my spirit was overwhelmed. Salah. Thou holdest mine eyes waking. I am so troubled that I cannot speak. I have considered the days of old, the years of ancient times. I call to remembrance my song in the night. I communed with my own heart, and my spirit made diligent search." All right. doing that diligent search, man. Really trying to, get understanding, right? So, these scriptures came to mind, as I was listening, and before I even finish this up, let me bring this out. Now, this is from a book called Yucatan Before and After the Conquest by Friar Diego de Landa. All right. And Yucatan is in Mexico. So it's dealing with the tribe of Issachar. So we're gonna go down to page 8. And this is based on oral tradition, all right, of information that was passed down. And you're gonna see that based on, the history that they was, considered Israelites, that they would have to be considered of the lost tribes. They would have to be, of Israel. So let me scroll, keep going down, and also notice the Navajo Gadite lady. She said that they said that they come from the east. Well, you're gonna hear the same thing said right here, dealing with these Issacharites. And this is page 8, and it says, this is section 5. It says provinces of Yucatan, its principal ancient structures. It says some old men of Yucatan say that they have heard from their ancestors, from their fathers, that this country was it's like it was peopled by a certain race who came from the east. All right, just as she said, her father said the same thing, that they came from the east, right? It says, whom God delivered by opening for them 12 roads through the sea. If this is true, all the inhabitants of the Indies must be of Jewish descent, because the Straits of Magellan, which that's a sea navigated through, I believe it goes through Chile, if I'm not mistaken. Having been passed, they must have spread over more than 2,000 leagues of territory now governed by Spain. Because it's since then have been colonized by the Spaniards. All right, but based on this observation, based on this history that was passed down, they said that they came from the east, and the Most High pretty much send signs for them to help them pass through, their routes, through the sea to get to where they got. And then had to come to the conclusion that if this is true, then they must be basically Israelites. All right. And which they are. But you got a lot of naysayers, you got a lot of black only Israelites out there, blackity black niggas. You gotta be damn near a Hamite to be an Israelite. Nah, man. We were scattered all over. And this is their history. All right. So, this is one account. And then this is right here in the book Lost Tribes and Promised Lands, right? And I'm gonna start here. It says, waving a banner high in the air, the Indian guy soon was greeted by a puff of smoke far beyond the other bank of the river. In response to a signal, the two men waited. Eventually, a canoe appeared bearing 3 men and a woman, all of them Indians. Salakia. I don't like using that word because we know what that actually means. All right. Esau, he's the real savage. But hey, that's part of Jake being under the curse, being labeled as bywords in Proverbs. But it goes on to say, to the place where Francisco and Montesinos were standing at the water's edge. The woman got off and spoke to Francisco in an Indian tongue that Montesinos could not understand, although he could perceive that he was being identified in the conversation. She then turned to her male companions to explain the situation. Upon hearing her words, they rose, went over to Montesinos, and to his utter astonishment said, Shema Yisroel Adoni Elohim Adonai Ehud. All right, which that's the Shema prayer. Shema Yasharallah Yahweh Lahayanawa Yahweh Echad. All right, they just said it in a different broken up dialect of Hebrew. Okay, and that's where did they get that from? All right, Esau didn't bring that to them. So our people, the fact that they're singing the Lord's Prayer, they had to have been the Lord's people. It says they had recited in Hebrew the fundamental credo of Judaism. A brief conversation then ensued in their common ancestral tongue. All right, talk about what the ancestors told. According to Montesinos, whose fluency in it is almost as perplexing to the reader of his narrative as is that of this three mysterious new companions, they told him that they were themselves of the tribe of Reuben, and that the tribe of Joseph lived on an island nearby. And we know Joseph is synonymous with the tribe of Ephraim. Well, Joseph represents Ephraim and Manasseh, but we know the head tribe is Ephraim. All right, and when you think about it, because we say that the Reubenites are the Seminole Indians, which is off the coast of Slakia, which is in the state of Florida, parts of the southeast of Babylon. But then you got the Puerto Rican islands, not too far off. You got Cuba, and you have Ephraim. All right, Puerto Rico. So, hey, that's spot on right there, man. So, and this was based on the ancestral tongue. So this was, information passed down from the fathers. So, putting this all together, you can't tell me that these are not the Lord's chosen people, man. So, I thought this was pretty heavy, man. And she was going into it. So, and this is what scares Esau when he sees stuff like this, and Jake finally starting to come to their senses, and they're starting to come back to remembrance. This is what's putting fear upon our enemies, man. Like it says in Revelation 11, the spirit of life entered into us, and we stood upon our feet, and great fear fell upon them which saw them. This is the threat right here, man. So, um, I guess I can cut it right here. And what I'll do is I'll leave a link to this video in the description box. And shout out to the brother Gadai Wan. He sent this video out, and I believe he's of this tribe of the Gadites. He's a Navajo. Okay, one of the biggest Gadite tribes, in America. But hey, it's beautiful to see. All right, so you got Gadites that are waking up to knowing that they're Israelites. So anyway, I hope this was edifying. I'm gonna give all praise, glory, and honor to Yahweh Shem Shai. And until the next lesson, Shalom.